You ever notice how some women never have to chase a man? He just comes back. No games, no begging, no overthinking. It's like she's got this quiet confidence that pulls him right back in every time. But it's not magic, it's mindset. See, what happens after intimacy is what truly defines the connection. Most people think attraction ends there, but the truth is that's where it really begins. Because the way you handle those moments after, the calm, the silence, the space, that's what separates the woman he forgets from the woman he can't stop thinking about. You know, after that moment of intimacy, something shifts. The air feels different. It's quiet, but it's not empty. And what a lot of people don't realize is that this moment right here determines everything that happens next. Most people rush to fill that space with words, attention, or validation, but the woman he always comes back to, she doesn't rush, she doesn't chase, she composes herself. She knows that stillness is power, because here's the truth: when a man connects deeply, his instinct isn't always to stay right there in that emotional moment. Sometimes he pulls back to process it. That's just how he's wired. It's not rejection, it's recalibration. But the problem is, when that happens, most women start panicking internally. They replay every word, every move, wondering, did I do something wrong? Did I say too much? Does he feel different now? And that energy of overthinking, overreaching, overexplaining, it changes the whole dynamic. It turns what was once natural into something forced. But the woman he can't stop thinking about doesn't do that. She's calm. She trusts the energy they shared without needing to chase after confirmation. She doesn't try to hold on to the moment. She allows it to breathe. That composure tells him something powerful. She's not afraid of losing him. And that's exactly why he feels drawn back to her. See, there's a kind of quiet confidence in a woman who can sit in her own energy after intimacy. She doesn't go searching for reassurance, because she is reassurance. Her peace speaks louder than any text she could send. She doesn't need to control how he feels, she just controls how she responds. And that difference, that's everything. Imagine this: he's driving home, and there's this silence between them. Most women would start sending messages trying to fill that silence. But she doesn't. She knows silence isn't a threat, it's space. She gives him that space to process, and that tells him she's not clingy, not anxious, not dependent, she's composed. And suddenly, instead of thinking, she's waiting on me, he's thinking, she's grounded, she's good. That flips the script. Because the truth is, people crave what brings them peace. Men aren't drawn back to the loudest energy, they're drawn back to the calmest one. When a woman can walk away from intimacy with grace, it shows she's emotionally mature. It shows she's not using that moment to secure him. She's using it to express who she already is, centered, confident, and whole. And that energy lingers. When she's not chasing, when she's not over-communicating, she becomes a mystery, but not in a game playing way. It's in that natural self-assured way that says, I'm here, I'm real, and I'm fine with or without your validation. That makes him think. It makes him curious, because now she stands out. She's not like the ones who crumble when attention fades for a moment. She's different. She's stable in a world that's emotionally frantic. And here's the most fascinating part. Men can sense the difference between a woman who's holding back out of fear and a woman who's holding steady out of confidence. One feels cold. The other feels magnetic. The woman who composes herself after intimacy isn't being distant, she's being deliberate. She knows that her energy teaches him how to treat her. If she stays composed, he learns that she values herself enough to let him come to her. And trust me, he will. Because he wants to return to where the energy felt safe, not where it felt pressured. So when that quiet moment comes, after everything, after the closeness, after the stillness, don't rush it. Don't fill it. Let it be. Because if he's meant to come back, your peace will guide him there, not your words, not your chase, just your calm, confident composure. You ever notice how silence makes most people uncomfortable? Especially after intimacy, when everything feels charged and vulnerable, That quiet moment can feel almost too loud. You start wondering what he's thinking, if he feels the same, if something shifted between you. That's when the mind starts racing, and suddenly you're trying to fill the silence with words, reassurance, or small talk that doesn't really mean anything. But the truth is, silence isn't the enemy, it's actually where the connection settles in. And the woman he always comes back to knows that. She doesn't rush to fill the pause, she respects it. See, after intimacy, men often need space to process, not because they're pulling away emotionally, but because they're taking it in differently. Women tend to internalize through connection, talking, feeling, expressing. Men, on the other hand, internalize through solitude, thinking, reflecting, and grounding. When a woman can understand that rhythm and not fight it, she becomes a safe space for him without even saying a word. When she allows that pause, she's sending a message that says, I trust this connection enough not to force it. And that message lands deeper than any question like, are you okay? Or what are you thinking? Because what he hears in her stillness is confidence. He doesn't feel her trying to pull him closer or hold him down. He feels her calm, and calm is magnetic. The pause isn't distance, it's respect. It's the unspoken understanding that not everything has to be explained or validated in the moment. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do after intimacy is to simply be, to sit in that silence without fear. Because that silence isn't rejection, it's reflection. It's him processing something real. Now, when a woman doesn't understand that, she tries to manage his silence. She asks questions, she checks in too much, she reads between lines that don't even exist. And what happens is, that calm energy that once brought him closer starts to feel heavy. It's not that she's doing anything wrong, it's just that her anxiety starts speaking louder than her presence. And when that happens, it doesn't draw him in, it pushes him away. But the woman who respects that pause, she shifts everything. She knows the silence is part of the rhythm, not a sign that something's wrong. She doesn't panic when the energy changes, she adapts. She lets him breathe. She lets the moment exist without demanding more from it. And because she doesn't chase validation, he feels more connected to her than ever. Not because she spoke, but because she didn't need to. There's something powerful about a woman who can sit beside a man in silence and not feel awkward. A woman who doesn't interpret quiet as a lack of care but as comfort. That kind of energy tells him, you don't need to perform for me. You can just be. And that right there is where intimacy deepens, when both people can exist in the same space without needing to fill it with noise. It's ironic, but the less she tries to fill the silence, the more he wants to fill it with her, because she becomes that breath of calm he can't find anywhere else. She's not asking for anything, not expecting a certain reaction, not trying to hold him in place. She's simply there, grounded, confident, secure. That kind of presence speaks to something deeper in a man. It tells him, you're safe here. And when a man feels emotionally safe with a woman, he doesn't run from her. He runs back to her. So the next time that quiet moment comes, don't rush to fix it. Don't chase the words. Don't overthink the silence. Let it linger. Let it breathe, because it's in that space, not the noise, where connection truly grows. After intimacy, there's this quiet temptation to let everything else fade into the background, to let your world start revolving around him. It's subtle, but it happens. You start checking your phone more often, rearranging your plans, thinking twice before doing something in case he calls. It's not desperation, it's attachment. But here's the truth. The women men always come back to are the ones who never lose themselves in that moment. They don't drop their routine, their rhythm, or their sense of purpose just because someone entered their life. They keep moving, keep living, keep shining. There's something deeply attractive about a woman who remains consistent with who she is, before, during, and after a connection. She doesn't suddenly vanish into this. She still wakes up early, goes for that run, focuses on her work, laughs with her friends, and stays committed to her goals. She doesn't shrink her life to fit his. Instead, she allows him to witness it, to be part of it, but never the center of it. That's what keeps his curiosity alive. Because every time he sees her, he doesn't just see the woman he was intimate with, he sees the woman who continues to grow, to inspire, to live with purpose. Most people think that closeness means merging completely, but that's where attraction often fades. When you lose yourself trying to hold on to someone, they feel it. The energy changes. It goes from being magnetic to being heavy. But when you maintain your individuality, your presence still feels light, free, confident. You're not chasing him, you're chasing your life. And that's what keeps him wanting to be part of it. Men don't fall in love with dependency. They fall in love with depth. They fall in love with women who have something beyond the relationship, something that lights them up. Because when you keep your world intact, you show him you're not looking for him to complete you. You're inviting him to join you. That distinction changes everything. It shifts the energy from, I need you, to, I enjoy you. And believe me, the moment a man feels he's being chosen, not needed, that's when he starts to value the connection differently. There's also a kind of respect that grows from watching someone stay grounded after something so vulnerable. It tells him you're not emotionally dependent, you're emotionally stable. You didn't give him your life. You shared your time. That small but powerful difference teaches him how to respect your boundaries without you ever having to say a word. And when he reaches out and sees you still in motion, still building, creating, growing, that's when something clicks. He realizes you weren't waiting by the phone. You weren't pausing your life hoping for his next move. You were too focused on becoming the best version of yourself. That confidence, that discipline, that self-respect, it's unforgettable. It makes him look at you differently, not as someone who's trying to hold on to him, but as someone worth holding on to. Because when a woman keeps her world alive, she keeps her light alive. And that light becomes the very thing he misses. He remembers her laughter, her focus, the way she carried herself with grace and independence. He doesn't come back because she asked him to. He comes back because being near her makes him feel inspired again. So never trade your rhythm for someone else's attention. Never pause your purpose to prove your worth. Keep moving, keep living, keep being everything you were before and more. Because the moment you stop revolving around him and start revolving around your own growth, that's when he realizes she's the kind of woman I want to come back to. After intimacy, communication becomes the quiet bridge between connection and confusion. It's that space where words carry more weight, where tone matters more than timing, and where the smallest reaction can either build trust or create distance. Most people think the way to keep someone close is to say all the right things, to constantly check in, to express every emotion immediately. But the woman he always comes back to doesn't speak to fill space. She speaks with intention. She doesn't talk to control his reaction. She talks to express her truth. That's the difference between communication that connects and communication that chases. When she reaches out, she's not trying to get reassurance or measure his feelings. She's simply being authentic. Her tone is calm, her energy grounded. She doesn't use words as a test to see how much he cares. She uses them as a way to share what she feels without fear of how it will be received. That kind of communication hits differently, doesn't feel heavy, it feels safe. It tells him she's not here to argue guilt or control. She's here to understand and to be understood. There's something powerful about a woman who can communicate her needs without turning them into demands. She doesn't play mind games. She doesn't use silence as punishment or attention as leverage. She knows the power of grace. She knows that strength doesn't come from trying to outsmart someone. It comes from staying steady in her truth. And when she speaks, it's not about proving a point, it's about preserving peace. That calm, respectful tone has a way of disarming defensiveness. It invites openness instead of resistance. Men, at their core, respond to clarity. They might not always have the words for emotion, but they understand energy. When a woman's words come from peace, he feels it. When they come from panic, he feels that too. So she chooses her timing wisely. She doesn't send a paragraph in the middle of an emotional storm. She waits until her heart is steady, then she speaks. That's emotional maturity. That's leadership in love. The reason he comes back to her isn't because she never gets upset, it's because she handles emotion with respect. Even when she's hurt, she doesn't throw words like weapons. She doesn't make him guess what's wrong. She's clear, but she's kind. That balance creates trust. And when trust exists, communication doesn't scare him, it draws him closer. He knows that with her, conversations don't turn into conflict, they turn into clarity. When she does express affection, it feels genuine, not performative. When she needs space, she says so calmly. When she wants connection, she initiates without fear. That kind of confidence creates emotional safety. And when a man feels emotionally safe, he doesn't feel trapped. He feels free to stay. Her words are measured, not manipulated. She doesn't say things to make him chase or feel guilty. She speaks because she values connection, not control. And that's rare. Because in a world where people confuse silence for strength or oversharing for honesty, she's found the middle ground, the space where words are few but full of meaning. Over time, he learns something valuable about her. She doesn't communicate to keep him, she communicates to connect with him. And that's what makes all the difference. Because he realizes that with her, peace isn't something she asks for. It's something she creates. So when she speaks, he listens. Not because she demands it, but because her presence commands it. And when she's quiet, he notices. Because her silence isn't a threat, it's a reflection of her peace. And that kind of woman, the one who communicates with grace, honesty, and calm, she's the one he always comes back to. After intimacy, emotions can run deep. There's vulnerability, connection, and sometimes confusion all tangled up together. It's easy to start attaching your worth to what happens next, to his response, his attention, his tone, his timing. But the woman he always comes back to doesn't do that. She values the connection, yes, but she values herself even more. She doesn't let that moment define her worth or dictate her peace. She understands that intimacy doesn't equal ownership. It's an experience, not a guarantee. And she doesn't need to be chosen to feel valuable. She already knows she is. See, most people give too much power away after that kind of closeness. They start to think, if he pulls back, maybe I wasn't enough. If he doesn't text, maybe it didn't mean as much to him. But that kind of thinking only drains your confidence. Because your value doesn't depend on someone else's behavior. It depends on how you see yourself when everything goes quiet. And that's what makes her different. She doesn't crumble in that silence. She stands in it. She lets it remind her that she's whole with or without validation. When she gives herself emotionally, she gives from abundance, not emptiness. She's not trying to earn love through affection, she's simply expressing it. And because of that, she doesn't feel regret or anxiety after. She feels peace. She knows that whatever happens next doesn't determine who she is, it only reveals who they are. That's power. That's emotional intelligence. Men can sense that kind of self-respect instantly. It's in the way she carries herself, the way she doesn't beg for clarity, the way she doesn't chase what's uncertain. She doesn't force a label or demand a promise. She lets things unfold naturally, trusting that what's meant for her won't require her to abandon her dignity to keep it. And that kind of restraint, where you care deeply but still protect your peace, creates an energy that's unforgettable. When a woman values herself beyond the moment, she changes the entire dynamic. He doesn't feel pressure to perform or prove. He feels inspired to rise. Because she's not asking for validation, she's setting a standard that says, if you want access to me, it has to match the way I treat myself. And that energy commands respect without her ever having to demand it. There's something incredibly magnetic about a woman who knows her own worth after intimacy. She's warm, but not desperate. Open, but not naive. She can care about him without losing herself in the process. She can feel deeply without letting that emotion drown her sense of reality. That balance is what keeps her grounded, and it's what keeps him drawn. And the truth is, when you know your worth, you don't chase energy that feels uncertain. You don't cling to someone's potential. You pay attention to consistency, to effort, to alignment. You stop waiting for someone to choose you because you've already chosen yourself. That shift in energy changes everything. You go from hoping someone values you to realizing your value was never up for negotiation in the first place. So when he walks away, she doesn't beg him to stay. When he pulls back, she doesn't collapse into fear. She continues forward, gracefully, quietly, confidently, because she understands something most don't. Her worth isn't tied to how someone treats her, but how she treats herself afterward. And that's exactly why he always comes back. Because while others gave their power away, she held on to hers. And a woman who knows her worth after giving her heart, that's the kind of woman a man never forgets. After intimacy, most people think the goal is to secure something, to make sure they know where things stand, to define what it means, to get clarity on what comes next. But the woman he always comes back to doesn't rush to define it. She doesn't try to tie it up neatly with words or chase certainty. She understands that the most powerful energy in the world isn't control, it's curiosity. She leaves him with just enough to think about, to feel, to wonder. And that's what keeps his mind spinning long after the moment has passed. It's not about playing games or pretending to be mysterious. It's about being real while still leaving space for discovery. Because the truth is, connection thrives on curiosity. When you reveal everything too quickly, when you over-explain, over-text, or overshare, the mystery fades. But when you're genuine, open, honest, and grounded, yet still allow space for him to miss you, to wonder what you're thinking, to feel your absence, that's when you stay on his mind. She knows that attraction isn't built on constant availability, it's built on emotional balance. She can give warmth, but she doesn't overextend. She can show affection, but she doesn't seek approval. She knows that every time she holds back just enough to let him breathe, she gives him a chance to step forward on his own. And when he does, it's not because she asked him to. It's because he wants to. That difference matters. Men remember the women who make them feel peace and curiosity at the same time. The ones who are kind but not predictable, loving but not dependent, present but not smothering. She doesn't need to fill every silence, doesn't need to post every thought, doesn't need to prove how much she cares, because she knows her presence speaks louder than her words ever could. And when she steps away, her absence echoes louder than any message she could send. There's a quiet strength in knowing when to lean in and when to step back, when to share and when to let things unfold naturally. It's not about withholding, it's about trusting. Trusting that the connection you built was real enough to stand on its own. Trusting that if he's meant to come back, he will. And in that trust, she creates space, not emptiness, but intrigue. He starts thinking about her at random moments. He wonders how she's doing, what she's thinking, if she's still thinking about him. That curiosity grows into attraction, and that attraction turns into longing. She doesn't try to make him chase her. She simply lives in a way that makes him want to. Because her energy feels different. It's calm, not chaotic, confident, not defensive. She doesn't use silence to manipulate, she uses it to protect her peace. And in that peace, she becomes unforgettable. The truth is, people don't miss the ones who beg for attention. They miss the ones who carried themselves with grace when they could have lost control. The ones who didn't fight for validation, but walked away with self-respect. The ones who made them feel something deeper, something safe, yet slightly uncertain. That balance of security and mystery stays with a man far longer than intensity ever will, so she doesn't overstay in his energy. She leaves with warmth, not need. She exits the moment with presence, not pressure. And that lingering peace, that gentle curiosity, becomes the invisible thread that pulls him back again and again. Because when a woman can be open enough to connect deeply, but strong enough to walk away gracefully, she becomes unforgettable. She doesn't chase closure. She doesn't demand certainty. She lets the silence do what words never could. And that's why he always comes back to the woman who left him wondering,